I have had an extraordinary week. Just extraordinary. And I'm going to get into the details of that in a bit. I want to start out with something funny. Well, it was funny to me. So one of the things I do when I'm in the bathroom is scroll. Maybe I'm not the only one. You like to read, you do whatever, right? I'm sitting there scrolling, and I come across this thing, this little clip of young Sheldon. And the interesting part about it is I'd seen this clip before, but something drew me to want to look at it again, so I did. And the clip goes something like this. They're sitting watching a football game, and it gets to a point where the Texas team is supposed to punt, and young Sheldon goes, actually, statistically, it's crazy that they punt because they get over 50% when they go for it on fourth, and the fact, and whenever they punt, they actually lose more yardage than they gain. So, for statistically, they should every team should go for it on fourth down. And the dad, who's a football coach, goes, "That's nuts. Everybody knows you punt on fourth down. I think your math is wrong." So this clip goes, young Sheldon sitting there going, "Nope, my math is right." And he goes on with what he's doing. So, the next scene is they're at a football game, and it's fourth down, and they're deep in their own territory. And so the assistant coach goes, I'm going to send out the punt team. And the dad goes, "Wait a minute. Why don't we go, we're going to go for it on fourth." And the assistant coach says, "You're crazy. Everybody knows you punt when you're deep in your own territory. This is crazy." And the dad goes, "Did I ever tell you about my tax return?" And so anyway, they score on fourth down. And the line that got me was, just because this is the way it's always been done doesn't mean that's the way we ought to keep doing it. And to do something new takes courage, right? To stand up in the face of how things have always been done takes courage. It takes something different. And so what I've been thinking about this week is nature, our personal nature, and how it comes out in life, and how we develop it. And I've been thinking a lot about, come on, Del, it's okay, come on. And I've been thinking a lot about how my nature has developed over the years, and how I didn't have a clue when I was younger what my nature would become, but that something in me did, because when I look back on my history, where I've wound up is where I was headed all along. This is the obvious conclusion for me of where I was headed given my nature, right? And yet there was no way to know this when I was younger. I read a quote by Confucius. He said that after it took 50 years of studying and practicing the I Ching to get to a place of not making gross errors. 50 years, and he was talking about his nature. And I thought, that's been really true for me, right? It can take your entire life to really develop getting into your nature. But what I want you young folks to know, and anybody at any age, is start as soon as you can with that discovery, because it takes a long time to fully become who you came here to be. Now, some folks are just born into it, but even those that were, like, I think of Mozart and Van Gogh, the way society's built drove them crazy, right? We have this society that's built on the premise that we got to work together to be at the top of the food chain. If we don't work together, we can become prey. And we're still thinking that way. But the issue, and it's not that that's inaccurate. What isn't accurate is the way we go about creating that. Like making everybody in school learn the same way. by thinking it's a great idea to stick everybody in a 9-to-5 job as much as possible, put them on an assembly line, right? And so what society has yet to realize is that if we could discover, if you allowed people to just discover their true nature, everybody's true nature wants to contribute and wants to get along. I noticed that the more my nature develops, I don't even recognize myself. I was about as antisocial as it gets when I was younger. I didn't want anything to do with society at all. And now I'm in the midst of it in a way, and socializing in a way that never even dawned on me as possible when I was in my 20s, 30s, 40s, and even 50s. It never dawned on me that how I am in the world now was even possible for me. But when I look back on the life I've led, I was in my late teens the first time I got involved with indigenous church ceremonies, which are basically peyote ceremonies, and because I was drawn to that. And then from there, but we used to call it the human potential movement way back in the late 60s and early 70s. And I did something called EST. And then from there, I moved on to something called actualizations. And I helped out there for a while. And then I went on to something called relationships. And then I moved on from there to something called DMA, which really had to do with visualization. It had to do with everything we teach here, except it was missing one component that was incredibly important to me, and that was spirit. It was very non-secular, and I was missing that. I was missing that sense of spirit, for myself. And so I look back on all this, and it's only in retrospect that I can see the thread. I can see how it all connects. I can see how it all works together. That may turn out to be the case for you too, that you don't know while you're moving along why you're doing it, what's getting you to do the next thing, but you're drawn to do it. And each time you do something like that, you are bringing out more of your nature. Each time you do something that you're just drawn to do, even if your mind doesn't know why, this is what draws out your nature. This is what has you become the person you came here to be, by getting deeper and deeper into what actually resonates. Not what you should do. I've done a lot of shoulding on myself in my life. I'm probably not the only one, right? Because we have a society that wants us to, that keeps us in line. The whole thing is to keep you in line. Society is built to keep you in line. And I am here to tell you, don't do it. The deeper we reach inside ourselves, it may seem at first like we're antisocial. It may seem at first like we're not getting along. It takes doing something different from what's always been done before to create something new, which is you and who you have come here to be. But you can't get there by doing what you have always done before, what you were told was the right thing to do. You can't discover your own nature by constantly doing things according to the rules, according to the guidelines that you were not set, that you don't resonate with. But going against all that takes a lot of courage. Takes a lot of courage and time. It takes a lot of time. So that's why I'm saying for you young folks, start early. So I was doing all that stuff, and so I'm in this thing, and then the next thing I moved to before I got into well, actually that's not true. So from DMA, I got into Science of Mind. I got into this teaching, and this teaching was exactly what I was looking for. It had all the principles of how to create a beautiful life from the inside out, and it had the sense that there is something larger than ourselves going on, larger than our ego minds going on. It's not really larger than ourselves, but it is larger than our ego mind, and I love that. And from there, I wanted to open up my heart more, so I wound up apprenticing with an Arapaho medicine woman for 3 years. In the midst of continuing these teachings, I did both. And in that was, at the end of the 3 years, was handed the ladle and said, you can now pour the sweat lodge. And the interesting part about that is at the same time I'm sweating with the Lakota, and almost within a week, they handed me the ladle too and said, you can now pour a Lakota sweat. And so I got both at the same time, and I just, because I hung in there and I was drawn to it, and this is what resonated, and it had nothing to do with making money in it, and I was raising a family, and so I was scrambling with all that at the same time. I was doing, my whole life I've been doing both, scrambling and learning, scrambling and learning. There's a better way to do it. I guarantee it, you don't have to be fired from over 60 jobs to get here. I promise you. It's not what I'm recommending. I am recommending constantly looking at what's true for you. Constantly being willing to look at where do you really resonate. Constantly being willing to question your mind and your mind's reason. You don't need a reason to be your best self, to be who you have come here to be. You don't need a reason to be who you have come here to be. That is your birthright. You were born to be the fullness of what you have brought to life. And I am recognizing this more and more. I'm recognizing this so deeply in myself now that it's overwhelming. And so, yesterday, let me go back. I got to go back before I talk about yesterday. Almost 50 years ago, I sat in a workshop where I saw an extraordinary process of transformation. And there was this man who sat in the back who facilitated it. And I looked at what that guy was doing that day. I was in my early 20s. And I said, I could do that. I could be that guy. That was almost 50 years ago. And yesterday I did that. And I was just, Ash helped me put it together. She was there with me the whole time. We collaborated on the thing, and all these people, we had almost 27 people showed up yesterday to the workshop, and it was an extraordinary process of transformation for some folks, and I learned a lot since it was my first time doing it. Okay, I want to confess that was my first time doing that thing, and I was just like, oh my God! Afterwards, I was just like, I felt like I'd arrived. I mean, it's been on my bucket list for almost 50 years. It's never too late, man. You're never too old. There's just no end to what's possible when you bring your true nature forward and the contribution you make with that. It was like one of the highlights of my life, being with you folks who were there yesterday. It was extraordinary, watching the light in the room light up, watching these folks awaken through this process that I hadn't had never done before and hadn't even seen in 50 years, but somehow stuck with me because I looked at that guy and said, I could be that. Who do you want to be? It's possible. And it's never too late. And it's never too early to start. Because it takes a while, I knew I was going to cry when I talked about it. It was so moving to me. It's all right, I don't need a tissue, I'm good. So our true nature, right, is this thing that continually is bubbling up in us. And I want to ask you, what is it you're telling yourself that's getting in your way? You know, one of the things that I've learned that's helped me to get here is to truly question my own thoughts. Like, is that true? Is that real? Is that the highest and best in me? I want you to know that if you are critical of yourself in any way, you are killing your own passion. If you allow a thought to bubble, thinking that somehow that critical nature is going to motivate you and move you along, it is actually killing your passion. You want to love on yourself because that's your true nature. Loving on yourself is the best way to bring out your true nature, since as your true nature, loving yourself is how you would be. Do you see what I'm saying here? Loving yourself is how you would be if you were being your true nature, so loving yourself is the first step in getting there. It's tied in. All the ways in which we tell ourselves we're not good enough, we don't have this, we're too this, or we're not enough this, all those things we tell ourselves. When we do that, we are killing our own nature instead of feeding it. You're not always going to get it right. I was reading this Zen passage that said, the path is not about always getting it right. The path is about the awareness. It's not even about always having your thoughts right. It's about how quickly are you aware of the thought that is not useful. That's what is the practice. Not that those thoughts don't pop up, but the practice is getting quicker and quicker. Oh, look at that thought. That thought doesn't serve me. That thought isn't serving my nature, my higher self. That thought's putting me down. That thought is telling me something about me that isn't loving. How deep, and that's not your nature. That is not your true nature. Our true nature is to love. And if the only thing you're thinking about in terms of love is loving out here, you're missing the most important person in your life. Take a deep breath. Breathe that in. Loving yourself. Loving the most important person in your life. That's you. That's you. And the deeper we can do that, the deeper it doesn't even matter what's happening out here. It's going to transform out here. What we embody manifests. We embody loving ourselves. What's going to manifest out here? Love. That's right. We embody it, it shows up. What's the first thing to embody? Love. And the best way to do that is catching those thoughts that are not loving. That are not loving. And going, hold on, that's not the truth. That is not my nature. My nature is that I love who I am. I appreciate who I am. I know how much I want to give to life. You have a contribution and gift within you. That's why you're here. You don't have to go nuts trying to find it. You just have to move towards what you resonate. And how do you learn what you resonate towards? Get out of your head. Because your head's going to be reasonable. And reasonable is the way it's been done for 100,000 years. Hasn't led us very far. I mean, it's built a technology. But society has yet to truly support the uniqueness of the gifts that each of us bring. It doesn't trust it. It's better you get in line. It's better it goes the way it's always been. As soon as you get in line, you're killing your passion, you're killing your nature. Now, the beauty of this whole thing is when I use the word killing, actually, it's never dead. With all those things I did throughout the years, there was this period of time when I was so positive that my nature, my reason for being was to be a rock and roll star. And I was in there full out. And during those almost a decade, I did not work on my nature very much. It was all about that. And it was all about drugs, sex, and rock and roll. And I played that pretty good. You know, I did that. So you can still get here, even if you're getting off track, right? You get off track. My point is if you get off track, you can bring yourself back. You don't have to beat yourself up because I don't beat myself up about that time. I had a really good time. Well, some of it. A lot of it, you know. But this is better. Being our nature is better. I got to tell you, it's been totally worth it. Totally worth everything I let go of, every thought I was willing to challenge, all the things I went through that strengthened me, that moved me forward, so that I can stand before you today and say it's totally worth it. And the contribution you will bring when your full nature comes to fruition is much larger than you can imagine. It has been larger than I could have imagined. This is way more than I thought. And that's what's possible for all of us. So begin. Wherever you are, take the next step towards knowing your nature. Take the next step towards challenging any thought that is not in your best interest, that doesn't tell you what a beautiful, wonderful gift you are to life. The way that it's always been is using criticism. Let's do it different. Let's set this new pattern. Let's know that self-love is the future, because in self-love we love. The more we self-love, the more we love. Self-love, we love. Let's take that on. Let's take that on. Anytime, our own thoughts. If somebody else is critical, just love them. Just love them. Defensiveness gets in your own way. Just love them. That's what's possible here, because that's what will build the future that will change the world. Imagine a world that is loving, where everybody's walking around just feeling their own self-love so deeply. Imagine a world like that. Who'd want to pick up in arms? Who'd want to fight anybody? Being so much in the love and working together and collaborating. Oh my God, what a world we could create then with your uniqueness, not in stepping in line. I know that for each and every one of us here, and I love you. Thank you.